Hi everybody, hope you guys are having a great day. We're going to go ahead and look today at how we can work with fractions. So we're going to look at taking a whole number, writing it as a fraction, changing a mixed number into an improper fraction, and then changing an improper fraction into a mixed number. So let's start off by how do we write a whole number as a fraction? So let's discuss that. Okay, so if I were to give you a whole number, it doesn't matter whatever the whole number is, it can be something small. For example, let's say we have 7. I want to write the number 7 as a fraction. Any whole number can be written as a fraction by putting the number you see in the numerator spot and then the number 1 in the denominator spot. So if I were to take the number 7 and I were to write it as a fraction, it would be 7 over 1. So you keep the number that you see in the numerator spot, and then you're going to write your denominator as 1. The denominator will always be 1. The idea is if you divide it, because remember a fraction is just a division problem, if you divide 1 into 7, you get 7. So we're not changing the value of the number at all, we're just changing the way that the number looks. For example, let's say you have 433. We could write the number 433 as a fraction by taking the number 433 in the numerator spot and 1 in the denominator spot. And again, we didn't change the value of the fraction because if I divide 1 into 433, I get 433. Okay, so I'm not changing the value and keeping it the same. I'm just changing the way it looks. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is how to write a mixed number as an improper fraction. Now, a mixed number is a mix of a whole number and fraction. For example, let's say you have 4 and how about 2/5. So you have a combination of a mixed number and a fraction. Okay, so, or excuse me, a whole number and a fraction. That's what we call a mixed number. It's a mix of the two. Now, the way I always remembered how to change a mixed number into an improper fraction is I'm going to make Texas. So as I look here, if I take the fraction 4 and 2/5, okay, I'm going to make Texas. So there's my t, there's my x. Now that tells me exactly how I'm going to change this into an improper fraction. You're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. Whatever you get, you're going to add to that your numerator. So in this case, you do 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 2 is going to give you 22. That's your numerator. The nice thing is your denominator does not change at all. So we're going to keep 5 in the denominator spot. So again, to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, I'm going to make Texas. So let's say we have 10 and, I don't know, how about 1/7? Okay. So again, it's a mixed number because we have a whole number and a fraction. So as I take the fraction 10 and 1/7, I'm going to make Texas here. Okay, so my TX. I'm going to take 7 times 10, which is 70. Add my 1, that's going to give me 71. And the denominator, the denominator is not 5, the denominator is 7. I'm going to keep the denominator the same, okay? This is why you guys generally use pencil, because at this point I could have erased it and gone back and fixed it. So, let's go ahead and move on to doing the opposite. So the opposite would be if I were to have an improper fraction and I want to write it as a mixed number. Okay, so now we're going to take these improper fractions, and we call them improper because the numerator is greater than the denominator, so that's why it's improper. It doesn't look right. Okay, we're going to change it into a mixed number. So I want to rewrite this fraction so that we have a whole number and then a fraction. I'm not changing the value, just like up here I didn't change the value of anything. I'm just changing its appearance. Now the way that I'm going to take an improper fraction and change it into a mixed number is I'm going to TiVo it. Okay, so I'm going to do top in, bottom out. And then I just start dividing. 5 divides into 11 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Now, unlike when we were changing our fractions into decimals, I don't want to leave it in a decimal because I'm trying to write it as a fraction here. So here's how I always remember. We're going to draw our worm right here, okay? And then the bottom becomes the top, and the top becomes the bottom. So 11/5 is the same thing as saying 2 and 1/5. Those are equivalent fractions. One's improper, one would be a mixed number. Now let's look at one more example here. So let's say, for example, we have, how about, let's do 14 over, how about we do 6, okay? Now, at this point, you can do one of two things. You can T-bow this and simplify the problem at the end, or you can choose to simplify it before you actually do any division. I'll show you both methods. So the first one, we're going to T-bow it, so top in, bottom out. And then I'm going to divide. 6 divides into 14 2 times. 2 times 6 is 12. I have 2 remaining. Draw my worm here. Make the bottom the top the bottom. So I have 2 and 2/6, which I can simplify that because they're both even, so they're both divisible by 2. So I could simplify that to say 2 and 1/3. Now, if you would prefer to simplify it prior to actually dividing, you would be able to simplify this by 2. So you would get 14 divided by 2 is 7, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So as you do your T-bowing it, you're going to do top in, bottom out. 6 divides into 7. Let's get this down. 3 divides into 7 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. One left over. Draw your worm, make the bottom the top the bottom. So in this case, you don't actually have to simplify because you've already done it. So I could say that 14/6, 2 and 2/6, or 2 and 1/3 are all the same. They're all equivalent fractions. Okay? Now, if you have any questions about what we've talked about, please make sure you come and talk to me. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. See you next time.